Hey, what is going on YouTube? It is the brain of the mainframe, Nile Scala, here with Crowdfunding Comics, with my good pal, friend, chum, co-host of my dreams, Mr. Billy Tucci. How you doing tonight?
This is our fan edition show.
Yes.
But we have fans from all across the fruited plain. We have me, you, and JC Vaughn, right? Our comic professionals. But we will be dealing with fans from Arizona, from Phoenix. We have a fan. We have a fan from Pittsburgh, PA, Michael Soloff. Our Phoenix fan is Travis Miller. Our friend from Arkansas is the great Brian Blevins, benefactor of the Blevins Media Center, which I'm right here coming to you live from.
Yes, yes, yes.
And we have Crystal Van Diver coming from Evansville, Kentucky. And I think we're ready to say hello. Say hello.
Old John, everyone. How you doing?
How's it going?
Hey, everyone.
How's it going?
Hey, everyone.
Good
evening. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
So what's up, everybody? We see you here. Hey, Dad, it's Matthew. My son is on YouTube. My son. I want to ask him to come up here. Matthew, hang on.
Because we need another person.
Yes, we need one more person.
In the same house, but still chatting through YouTube. I
love it. All right. Anyway, so guys out there, Nile and I had a discussion, and Jeff, about that. We wanted the show because this really is a fan weekend. I think this is a weekend to celebrate comics, to celebrate the industry, to celebrate how far we've all come. There's been a lot of negatives today, especially Old Bean, right?
Yeah.
What happened with Michael Davis, some horrible things, and maybe
incredible.
Incredulous, really. I think it's incredulous what happened. From doxing to threats to swatting. We had Edwin and Boyette to now this sort of thing that happened with Michael Davis, a truly beloved person in the comics industry, who someone hacked his account, said it was a family member,
and stole his cell phone.
Stole his cell phone and told the world that he committed suicide last night. And Kravitz was tweeting about it, Don McGregor, everybody. And it was just, so we'll get to that. That's for another show. But tonight, let's try to stay positive. I think it's a wonderful weekend. Amazing thing. I have to my left, Miss Crystal Van Diver, Miss Kissel. Hey, sissy, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How about yourself?
And of course, we have Old Bean,
hey, Matthew.
The president of Gemstone Publishing, my beloved son Matthew here. In the middle, of course, we have my partner in crime, Nile the Brain Scala. To the lower left, we have Brian Blevins.
How's it going?
Super fan who apologized for his background looking like this because he is building a 20-seat media room, a movie theater in his house.
Nice.
Yeah.
With concession stand?
Right through there. Absolutely. Come on now.
You're going to have the gourmet popcorn, right?
And I got the fountain drink machine. Everything. I have the candy. It's awesome.
So
Brian, did you just say that you have confession stands?
Concession.
Oh,
I didn't say confession.
It's not a church.
So maybe we can have when Avengers Endgame comes to DVD or live, then we'll all go to Brian's house and stream a live show from there.
Definitely.
We have our friend Michael Soloff coming to you live from Pittsburgh, PA, which is the old stomping ground of both JC Vaughn and, of course, our illustrious friend, American hero, Mr. Travis Miller, coming to you live from Phoenix, AZ. What's up, brother?
How you guys doing?
We're doing good. Let us know. So we're all here, and of course, this is Matthew.
Hey, Matthew.
Hi, Matthew.
First question. We all saw the film, right? I think it was an experience. I think it was epic. I think it was a real popcorn and would you have milk duds and raisinets type of movie. I think the type of thing that why we went to the movies back in the day. And just a quick question. Did you cry? Almost. Did anybody else cry?
I cried like 3 times.
I cried. So
I'm man enough to admit that I
got a good lump.
You cried, Brian.
I did. I definitely did not cry.
You did not.
You're
cry.
heartless.
I did not. It wasn't. I think maybe we all had a different experience when we watched it because when I saw it, I had a private screening of it, so I didn't have the emotion of everyone in the theater to feed off of. It was just being one of my buddies. So It probably was a different experience altogether.
That's a really good point, Brian. There was definitely emotion to be fed off in that. I will say the thing that gave me the lump in the throat, I don't know that other people were reacting to, but it was one of the scenes with Cap.
Yeah.
But there were the opposite direction, the joyous applause scenes that were definitely the feeding on the other audience members kind of thing.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yep. And I think the scene that stood out to me that I cried, and I whispered to you, Matthew, right? I said, well, if he snapped his fingers, and thinking like he's 13, so thinking that he's 5 still or 4, I'm like, well, he snapped his fingers, so that means all the heroes are going to come back. He's like, yeah, Dad, I know. And that scene when Cap, after his shield is cracked and broken in half, and he's standing there alone, and there's all of Thanos' armies and he's to the left, great framing.
Yeah, the scene was, I saw it.
Yeah, and he's
that'd be a great
and it's all silhouetted. You know, he's in silhouette, and you just see this figure standing there, and all of a sudden, you know, and then
Sling ring portals.
Yes, and then before the what are they called?
Sling ring.
Sling. Okay, before the but all of Thanos' army is just charging towards him. You know, all those beasts, and they're coming at him. And then all of a sudden, you just hear in his mic, you know, Cap, Sam, it's Sam, and the crackling, you know, and oh my God, right? I mean, that's what movies are about.
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps. I'm getting them now.
Yeah, that wasn't like a choke up scene for me. The one that got me was when he was standing in Peggy's outer office. That was as close to heartache as that movie gave for me. There were some other great things, like obviously how human Tony was when he saw Peter.
Yeah.
Right.
I particularly enjoyed Tony telling Steve off. Towards the beginning, because he totally deserved it. You know, when Captain America: Civil War came out, everybody's like, "Oh, I'm on Team Cap because you know you have to have freedom." Blah blah blah. But it's not about that. It's about a larger threat that Tony saw coming, and nobody else wanted to face. And the subsequent movies are all about that threat, and Tony was right.
Yeah, you know what's great about that is there's still room to argue about that because the very threat was created by Tony being arrogant. In Ultron.
Or the threat was created by, you know, Howard even looking for the Tesseract.
Ooh.
You know, I mean, it's a chicken or an egg.
Well, even the beginning when Hawkeye just lost everything. I mean, Hawkeye he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
What a great way to set the pace.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, like it amped up at the beginning, and then it kind of lulled and had to re-amp itself back up.
I agree, Brian. That's a really good observation. Do you guys feel like it had 4 different openings?
Oh,
yes. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
The pacing was all over the place, but I mean, again, they definitely did a great job of breaking down the different acts for everybody.
Yeah, I thought the Russos
and 3 or 4 different endings too. I mean, think about it. I mean, it was really great. I mean, you had 3 acts. You done? No? Okay, you want to come back? All right, let's come back. You know, I love the various endings, and I love the way it ended. I really did. I really loved it, being a nostalgic person, because I think I missed, and I'll let everyone know, on a personal note, I guess, I missed Civil War. I wasn't a fan of the premise of it. I thought that it was totally misguided, to be perfectly honest with you, and that's my own personal things. The whole point about registering your superhero powers and who was the good guys and who were the bad guys, I thought it was truly misguided, so I missed it. I really did. But, of course, I did see I saw Age of Ultron, which I really enjoyed. And then I saw, what was the one, the sequel to this one? Where's Jeff?
Infinity War?
Infinity War, yeah. Is Jeff Vaughn going into the Phantom Zone?
It's the wrong universe.
He went into the Phantom Zone.
It's not dark enough. The conversation is not dark enough for the DC universe.
Now, Nile, again, guys out there, people are asking us questions, so we should say, we should bring them into the conversation. If you guys have any questions or any comments, please come in on this. But and also give us a like, give our fans here, this is the comics industry that, Jeff and I have been able to make a career in comics for, 25 plus years. And we're really fortunate that. Then I met Nile, and Nile is this brain that I consider him, and he's taught me so much. And then we have our friends here who become family to me, these people from, all across the fruited plain. And we all became, you guys are family to me, and it's all through the love of comics. And I love that whole idea that I wish I saw this movie with you guys together. And that's why we wanted you guys on, because we wanted that fan perspective. And Crystal, you were on, you do a radio show, right, in Kentucky, or is it in Evansville, your radio show?
I'm in Henderson, actually, yes.
Is the radio, but what's the radio show you do? Because
the radio's in.
You've seen the movie 3 times already.
We have it.
Yep.
Wow. Jeez, I wish I had that time.
What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I had to make the time for this one. The first time there was too much. The second time I was able to enjoy. The third time I was able to actually absorb it all. So.
Wait a minute, you couldn't enjoy it? Were you so?
Hi, Dad.
Well,
is that my son?
Pretty emotional the first night.
So were you?
Plus, the crowd. The first. What?
No, kid. We have colored. Matthew's doing art. He's doing colored lights.
You didn't have the space.
Oh, the Space Stone.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
The thing that
the first night, the fans were way too involved. They were clapping, they were talking to the screen, they were yelling and cheering. So that kind of put you in the feel of everything. So you couldn't really see it all. Plus, it was a sold-out show.
Yeah.
Second night, not so much. Third time, it was awesome.
Hey, Bill, the thing that struck me most about this film was that when it was over, and actually while it was going on, I kept going, my God, they were able to get that original actor from 10 years ago back to do a certain scene. And the movie struck me like truthfully, no other that I've seen in about 10 years in terms of its amount of award-winning actors and cameos and things like that. It reminded me of the old airplane films or Cecil D. DeMille films, where everyone who was popular at the time came into the movies. It really struck me on that aspect.
Yeah, you had Redford. You know what I mean? And
they brought everyone back, and if they CGI brought everyone else.
Michelle
they had Natalie
doing
Portman
a
come back
non-speaking part at a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they even had Natalie Portman came back, who swore off the Marvel films, which is pretty incredible.
I didn't know that. Wait,
you didn't see that?
She swore off the Marvel films?
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, they were too non-boring for her.
Yeah, they were movies that people actually would go and see, so she swore she wanted to do them.
Because she did reach the pinnacle of her acting experience in the Star Wars prequels.
Right.
Thank you.
So let me ask you guys a question. So a lot of the characters, now that the Infinity War was over, the people kind of all disappeared, as we saw at the end. There was a change in a lot of the characters. So we had this huge tragic event, right? And we'd lost all these loved ones. Yet it seemed like to me that a lot of our heroes had a little bit of a conflict, because it's like, all this tragic stuff happened, but personally, I've grown. And some of their demons, they were able to pretty much resolve issues they had amongst themselves, and then kind of had the conflict of bringing some of those demons back, or stopping what they're doing to try to save everyone. What were your thoughts on the character development?
I mean, I think a 5-year time lapse between, the movie takes place just moments after the last one ended, and then an undisclosed amount of time happens before they go confront their enemy for the final time. And I think the 5-year lapse allowed a lot of people to gain acceptance to what it was, because these guys are like, we never lose, we never do anything. So having to continue life with a constant reminder of how they failed, I mean absolutely, you could tell even with Thor, the god of thunder, you can tell that the PTSD definitely
made him human.
Took their toll on everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, every single person.
And then Bruce Banner and the Hulk are now merged into this coexistence together. It seemed like Captain America kind of was able to let go of his past a little bit and try to move on. And Stark had a family.
Oh,
I thought it was really cool that Cap was able to pick up doing the support group that Sam Wilson was doing in Civil War. So he kind of transitioned from that warrior that doesn't have a war anymore, like Sam was after his time in Afghanistan. And now
Travis, I think that's a really great point. Yeah. I think that's a phenomenal analogy, actually. The thing that I would say, Nile, to your point, though, is that Cap made the steps to move on, but when you get to his relationship with Peggy, apparently that's the thing I'm going to focus on, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that he didn't.
Yeah. Well, when he saw her again, I think it all went to the wayside.
Yeah, I think that's really it, and I think that if you go back to Civil War, when she has dementia, and doesn't, she's talking to him, and then doesn't remember that she's been talking to him, and he just acts like the total soldier there, the total trooper, and that at that point that was breaking his heart. So seeing her alive and with it and young again must have seemed like a real slam, and I think the portrayal of that with as few words as possible was really great.
Yeah, he's got Travis, right? He's got a mission,
right? So can we come back and loop back to the time loop thing later on? Because I thought it was kind of interesting how that all ended up, but we can get to it later.
I think that's a good idea, Travis.
Yeah.
We'll just loop
Fine,
back around
Travis. Jeez.
with our Tesseract, we'll loop back to it. But
hey,
also, they did a
like
really good job of setting up some of the stuff that's going to be on Disney Plus later.
Yes, they did. And what's cool is, and kind of going off topic though, I was even reading they're bringing back the original characters for those series on Disney.
Oh wow!
Yeah, really? Jeremy Renner has definitely signed on for Hawkeye, and they got Tom Hiddleston for Loki. I mean, it's gonna be great.
But the movie really did feel like a nice wrapping up of a first part of 10 years worth of movies. It had a real ending to so many different movies.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. That tied a lot of loose ends up. Getting back to the point with the scene where 1970 New Jersey, and remember when Howard Stark said, the funny thing is I've never even met my child yet, but I'd do anything for him. And I thought there might be a moment where he's like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Use your help to get out of here, type sort of thing. When everyone, because they had all the guards looking for them, and then the guards kind of went away. I would have liked that scene to have been a little bit more anxious, because that seemed kind of easy compared. I
want to ask Brian a question about that, because he saw it in a very small setting. I mean, uncrowded setting.
Right.
And when you had those clearly emotional moments that you got to enjoy without anybody talking or coughing or telling their kid to shut up or whatever.
Right.
What did it feel like to you? Because I was in a big crowd and they still felt pretty personal. But what did they feel like, those moments like Tony and Howard and Cap and Peggy and all that stuff? What did that feel like to you?
Well, again, I took it from a different standpoint. The whole. First of all, I'm a time travel snob when it comes to movies, anyway. But off the time travel subject, again, these people had a 5-year deal where they had to accept what was going on, and then after it's like they had already accepted it, they had to go back and now revisit other things that they never got to do and never got to accept. So I mean, it was definitely very strong, but again, they made it very clear that it was a new timeline. But I think what a lot of people don't understand is that Captain America went back to that timeline, that exact timeline where Tony Stark met his dad and everything. So there's no telling what could have transpired during that situation. But I think it was a great payoff. It was a great reward for Tony a well-deserved reward. You know, I mean, I thought that meeting definitely needed to happen. I know that it wasn't in the original plan, you know, when they all went back in time. So, you know, for off the cuff, you know, take another trip through time that was, you know, a suicide mission basically if they didn't succeed. I mean, I think it was a great payoff for him.
Yeah, they did a lovely job of just wrapping up all the family values. I mean, so many
100%.
different ways of handling family relationships in the movie was great.
Yeah, they did.
Now, Crystal, if I may ask you, from seeing it 3 times, and I know the comic fan you are and that you've become, speaking of character development, what's your favorite character story arc in the film?
Well, I've always loved Iron Man from the beginning, and not necessarily comic-wise, but just because I just like the way Robert Downey Jr. portrays Iron Man. Yeah. So I loved Iron Man, but to watch Thor do his thing, I kind of like that. But Iron Man will always go down as my favorite, no matter what.
Yeah. Now, what about you, Old Bean? Which character really stuck out for you? Because remember, you had a cast of dozens of all these, and how the brothers did it, they really gave them their own screen time. I mean, everybody was showcased. I thought Nick Fury would be in a little bit more, but aside from that, I mean, they really did a great job of being very well-rounded and all. I mean, is there a particular character that stuck out to you as a writer yourself?
Wow. That's a great question. I think one of the things that I was impressed with as a writer was their balancing act. They did this in Civil War, and they did it in Infinity War, where you still got an awful lot of character moments, despite the fact that this is just chock full of characters.
Yes.
And yeah, you know, I like you. I expected more Nick Fury. I knew it could only be once the characters were brought back.
Right.
But I did expect that. But if you want to go and look at whether it is the executives at Marvel when they crafted their original deals for the films or whatever, but you got, I mentioned before, Michelle Pfeiffer for a non-speaking part cameo at a funeral scene.
Yeah.
You got Robert Redford, for Pete's sake, who is, you know, in theory retired from acting. You got just all these people to reprise roles, and really they were there for a day, 2, 3, 4 days shooting most of these guys. And yet at the same time, we know historically the film business is not for wilting flowers. You know, it's people with big, large, presumptive egos.
Yeah.
And to get all these people on board and playing ball and playing well with others, whether they really were behind the scenes or not, doesn't matter. It's how it came off. It's quite the achievement. I mean, listen, it's not like Ang Lee Hulk good.
Oh my God.
You know,
I mean, I've never been a fan, if I may, I've never been a fan of the Hulk because I think he looks like fucking Shrek, and this was the first movie that he didn't look like Shrek to me. I keep waiting for him to say, "Little donkey."
That's so funny, Billy, because now I thought he looked more like it.
Really? Oh, you? Oh, because he had the
It's a visually ridiculous character. So we have to get over the Shrek thing.
But you know what's funny? Yeah. I literally don't think I've ever cracked Travis up before, so this whole show was worth it to me.
How about you, Travis? Travis, which character did you see? I mean, which character stood out to you in their arc? And especially, I mean, today there were a lot of sacrifices. Not today, this weekend. You know, this film. A lot of sacrifices, a lot of risk-taking, a lot of people really showcased, and it was pretty incredible. Again, screen time, 2, 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
So I had this discussion with a coworker earlier that the entire arc of the past 22 films, culminating in the 23rd with Endgame, was all about Steve Rogers and Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They are the main protagonists. Now everybody else has their pieces and they jump in to help, but they're there to help Tony and Steve, and ultimately defeat Thanos. So I think the characters that stood out the most to me were Iron Man and Captain America, and how they dealt with the same problem in vastly different ways. Steve stuck around trying to be an Avenger, whatever that meant after the snapping, to Tony writing everybody off. You know what? I tried to tell you, you didn't listen, we're done here. And then the way their stories ended, Cap got exactly what he wanted for that entire time that he was actually asleep. And Tony became the guy that Steve Rogers says that he wasn't in the first Avengers movie. He was the guy that laid down on the wire and sacrificed everything so everybody else could live. And I thought that was the most moving part.
Well, it's actually they switch roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like during the time, Tony got the life, Tony got the kids, and Captain America gave his life, and then it was switched now to where Tony gave his life and Captain America, got to live his.
And Steve actually took Tony's advice for that.
Yeah,
which is really interesting. Travis, sorry to interrupt, but one of the things that Travis is talking about is there's always been this one great scene from Avengers 144 that absolutely has always grabbed me, and it was I think it was Englehart writing and George Perez on art, the floor falls out from underneath them and they're falling, and Cap grabs Hellcat and actually she's still Patsy Walker, and throws his shield as they're plummeting all these stories. The shield bounces off an I-beam, gives him a chance to bounce upward, still falling, and then Iron Man grabs them both, and the caption was Avengers teamwork pays off again. We saw an element of that in the first movie, where he's shooting the repulsors at the aliens, and Cap's bouncing the beam off his shield, and they're throwing the shield around and all that kind of stuff like that. This movie was the first time where everybody had everybody's back against overwhelming odds again. They weren't fighting amongst themselves. They weren't doing the prima donna thing, all that kind of stuff like that. And as a huge, long-time Avengers fan, it was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
To point out to JC real quick, with Iron Man Mark 75, which was the main suit in this one, he actually looks like he actually built it for teamwork. So there was a receptacle on his back for lightning to shoot off, and do this giant cannon.
Yeah, there's some forethought that went into that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and just the fact that he went from 50 to 75. I want to know what those other 20 or 24
and
models of Iron Man.
They're in the garage.
Well, I gotta tell you, my heart skipped a beat when they panned through when Captain Marvel brought him back to Earth, and they scanned and you saw Pepper Potts there. I was like, wow! I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, literally the first time I've been happy to see Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised she didn't have all 6 Infinity Stones. Anyways,
To me, it was Cap being able to grab a hold of the hammer really made my heart thump. But what was the least memorable moment for you? Me and Billy looked at each other at the funeral scene and said, "Who's that kid?"
Yes. Yes.
What are you
Was that the kid
about?
from the third?
Yeah,
it is the boy from Iron Man 3.
Yeah,
Iron Man 3.
It was Harley Kenner. Harley Keener, the kid who saved Billy after his suit got destroyed.
You saved Tony. Oh, okay. So that was a kid, because we were like, who the hell's that kid?
Yeah.
That was.
So the question is the kid going to become Iron Man now, or was he just there because he's Tony?
So we talked about that. So we stayed through the credits and the banging and the clanging at the end. But there was a voice.
There was a voice?
It was Emperor
Maybe
Palpatine.
a voice.
I heard
Emperor
voice.
Palpatine.
No, I heard. So
That was the usher saying, "Get out."
Is that Morgan forging an Iron Man mask? Is she building a new mark?
Actually, I think it was I think that was the hammering from Iron Man 1.
I believe so as well.
Pounding out the mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I thought as well. Remember he was just hammering it.
Yeah, I just watched that. Yeah, I just watched that yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my guess. Is that's exactly what it was.
So it's a little nod to him.
But can we go back to Mike's thing?
Do you think maybe they went back in time?
Let's expand this. Let's expand this just a little bit. Like, not talk about least memorable, because inherently you don't remember the least memorable. Let's talk about, was there something you didn't like?
I didn't like the I didn't like how Thanos and them were able to use the PIM particles. Like there was only enough for, allegedly, as they said, there was only enough for a one-way trip for Nebula to go and come back.
Yes.
Yet for some reason there was enough to turn all of Thanos' ship down, and they automatically knew how to navigate the quantum realm.
So also you need two PIM particles. You need the red and you need the blue.
Right.
The red shrinks you. The blue brings you back to normal size, or expands you to 60 feet tall. And they only have the red.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So in other words, they should have been fighting the Micronauts.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
I probably have a very surprising answer to that question, Jeff. I would, and everyone's going to hate me on this one.
Okay,
I
hate you, Mike.
enjoyed the movie, and I would call it probably pretty darn good to great. I think a year from now, it's going to just fade into another blockbuster. I don't think it's going to be that memorable. I don't think it's going to be that rewatchable more than one or two times, and I really think it's just going to fade as another just great Marvel movie.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think Infinity War was incredible. Infinity War was absolutely. I mean, it was spaced out exactly. The story was streamlined, and I mean, it was about as perfect as a movie as you could get. And then Endgame came out, and it was crazy.
Brian's bringing up a good point here, sort of dovetailing off of Mike there. Let's just go around and start with Billy.
Yeah.
And Nile, please include yourself here.
Yeah.
Out of all of the Marvel movies, what's your personal favorite?
Wow. Well, I got to tell you, from this weekend, right now, this one is.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, because I just loved how they tied it up. Brian brought about that, was it the high watermark with Infinity War? And if Infinity War was Marvel's Empire Strikes Back, right? Even though we can't equate the two because now Marvel has Star Wars. But this certainly was not Return of the Jedi. I think this was on par with Infinity War. I think personally, I think it exceeded it. And I think as I watched it with my two boys, you know what I mean, the film, and I saw how excited they were and laughing at all the laughing things. And, I felt it was a far more enjoyable experience. But aside from that, if we go back, I love the first Captain America. I love is that the last Avengers, Captain America?
The first Avengers.
The first Avengers.
The first Avengers trailer.
Yeah, I love that because I just love the whole nostalgia of it. I love the scene with just even from the trailer that they showed when they had the sign in the window and you walk up and you see your face in that blank soldier and he's too short, you know what I mean, to fit in the face, like things like that. I just really love that film. But
that's a good one. How about you, Crystal?
Crystal, can you hear us?
What? Like hanging out.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite movie thus far?
Okay, my favorite was Iron Man because it was the first one, but I like Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, I like the Guardians.
Oh, see, now if I may jump in, I have to say, and I told that to you, Solop, right? I think that Avengers Endgame was the best Guardians of the Galaxy film. I really do. I just
is that because it's more serious?
No, it's just like Goonies. I don't know. Remember Goonies? Whenever I think of Goonies, it's just loud. And I know I'm not young, like Travis. I'm sure you love Goonies.
Of course.
Slot
But,
love
John,
joy.
I appreciate
Brian
that.
probably loves Goonies. Yeah, Nile,
Well,
you
that's
guys
because
love
Goonies never say die, Billy.
Yeah, man.
Goonies.
You
right.
guys.
All right.
It was just loud. The kids.
All
So-
right, Billy. All right, Billy. Let's-
You know what movie I actually enjoyed? Ant-Man. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I had a lot of fun with Ant-Man. I think it's underrated. I loved Ant-Man, but this new Avengers Endgame, did take the cake for me. It's by far my favorite movie, and that's just because of what they packed in, so smooth and seamless, with some of the best facial CGI I've seen in a film, except maybe this new Will Smith movie that's coming out.
Yeah.
But I mean, they packed in everything in 3 hours, and you weren't sitting there. You never hit a point where you're like, "Oh shit, this is 3 hours." But it's like, and nothing clumped together. Everything was smooth. Every story was great.
And you have to remember, this is not an easy movie to make.
No, not at all.
Okay, but let's not get too far off track here at the moment. Brian, is yours Infinity War?
Oh no, it
What's
is
your
not.
favorite?
My favorite one is Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Whoa.
I think that was absolutely, Iron Man definitely created the MCU, but I think that Winter Soldier defined it.
So
I agree.
I think that's phenomenal. Mikey, what's yours?
Mine, I have to go off book again, and I was telling this to Billy, and his sons were yelling at me saying that I'm wrong.
Well, they're
They're
probably
right.
And they're probably right because they're smart kids. But truthfully, and it's not exactly a Marvel movie, but I just saw Into the Spider-Verse, and that just blew my freaking socks off.
Yes.
It's the best superhero movie I might have ever seen. And just in terms of every way that a movie could be perfect, that movie was perfect to me. And even though it wasn't quite fitting in with this whole thing, I still think that's the best superhero and kind of Marvel movie that I've ever seen.
Okay.
That was pretty good.
Aside from that being off target, I understand what you're saying, and there are a lot of people who have a very, very positive reaction to that. All right, Travis, how about you?
Mine are the probably least favorite of everybody else's. Thor, I thought it was fantastic.
The first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Kenneth Branagh. I mean,
and that's literally, I had seen Hiddleston in a Kenneth Branagh TV series from the UK, and I'm sure that's where, since he directed that movie, I'm sure that had a lot to do with Hiddleston being cast, and that's one of the quintessential, vitally important decisions of the Marvel universe, was casting Hiddleston as Loki.
I don't think it would be the same. And my second favorite is Doctor Strange.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Well, if I
it shares some characteristics with Strange, especially physical disabilities, and I understand his whole story of not being the top of his profession and have to find something new. So that really, hits me in the feel.
Although I thought Doctor Strange's robe work was very disappointing in this movie.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
The lack of.
All right.
Wow.
All right. I want to hit with my favorite.
If we're talking about Loki, let's give Chris Hemsworth props. I mean, right, Travis? Because Thor has never been a humorous character that I know of.
Yeah, he evolved.
I mean, he really gave him he was so much fun in this picture. I know the other ones are kind of more, they want to make it more goofy and stuff, but I think it was a great balance.
One of the things, Billy, one of the things
Thor got very dark in, sorry, JC, Thor got very dark, and he corrected his mistake from Infinity War, but, it's too late.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. One of the things when you bring in a great actor or even a large personality is you really, if you're one of the other people in a scene with them, you have to step up your game or you get eaten alive.
Yeah.
I've always thought that like James Spader is a really phenomenal actor, right? But I don't think he became that phenomenal until he had to go all those balcony scenes in Boston Legal with Shatner.
Right.
Shatner's this large personality that I'm not saying he's a great actor. I'm saying he's a large personality that I happen to like, but that he will eat you alive if you're timid.
Yeah.
I thought James Spader really hit his stride with Blacklist, and then transitioned very well into Ultron. They just made Marvel made some really, really, really bad mistakes with Ultron.
Yeah.
Why do you have a robot that blinks and has lips?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Ultron is pretty close to my bottom of my list on my films. But I want to do my favorite, and I agree with Brian. Captain America: Winter Soldier. It works as a movie.
Yeah.
It's not just as a superhero movie. The character relationships are great. And we all bring our personal biases to these things. When I started reading Cap, it was Captain America and the Falcon, and to me, that's how Captain America's supposed to be. I always loved the fact that they didn't sit around talking about race, but here were a white guy and a black guy were partners and equals and things like that. And I just freaking loved it. I thought, again, casting was just superb, and it really did a lot for me. I also think that if you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it spins out on TV, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really took off when the Hydra betrayal came.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Hell Hydra.
Kind of along that same line, Jeff, I went in not knowing anything about Guardians. I hadn't read anything. I hadn't seen anything. And I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I had the most fun in that movie.
That's a great point. Guardians is probably the one that most fans are familiar with, but most civilians weren't. And I know that when we saw the trailer for Guardians, Rosina looked at me and said, "Oh, Marvel's finally got a bomb," and I said, "You're out of your mind. It's a mega hit."
As soon as I saw the team that they had put together for Guardians, the core characters, and it immediately screamed out that Abnett landing, Guardians of the Galaxy, Annihilators. I knew it was going to be a blockbuster. Yeah. People are like, "What?" I'm like, "You're going to have a machine gun toting raccoon and then semi-talking tree." Yeah. People are going to love it.
And that's been a gateway movie for a lot of people that really weren't fans in the beginning. They ended up giving in and seeing it, then they went back. They went back and started watching everything.
And can I just say that I think no one writes space stories and space dramas. Maybe J. Michael Straczynski, because I really loved his Babylon 5 stuff, but no one writes it better than Abnett and Lanning. I mean, from the Black Library series all the way up. I mean, it is unparalleled.
Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's one of the really unfortunate things that they're not working together anymore.
God, Heroes for Hire.
Seriously, if you read they took over one of the Stan Lee comics for Boom around issue 5. And it was freaking great for the rest of the run.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I love the progression. Again, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, and I watched Guardians 2, and it just was loud to me, and it bothered me. It really did. I apologize. It was just so much crap going on, blah, blah, blah. But I love...
Yeah, boomer.
I think I am a boomer. But I think the character that stood out to me most, and which I was most impressed with in this film, was Nebula.
That's what I was going to say.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The movie hangs on Nebula.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and how she holds the key to everything in every aspect. Both of them. I mean, really impressed. I mean, Karen Gillan, is that her name?
Yeah. She's fantastic. I thought the Nebula story was kind of contrived.
You felt for her. I mean, you really felt.
Do explain, Travis.
What?
Yeah, Travis.
Travis, I want to hear what Travis has to say on that.
Sorry,
because I may agree with you a little bit, even though
the future or the present past Nebula thing, it didn't feel like it worked to me.
Yeah, it didn't sit well with me either.
They're somehow connected through whatever implants.
A neural synapses.
Yeah,
like a Wi-Fi.
But she's on the same. If she's on the same planet and within the same Wi-Fi.
But
she could pick
she has the same SIM card.
I'm hoping that they have something better than Wi-Fi.
They're both running Windows 95.
But the simple fact is,
Brian, it was DOS.
When they finally get back to Earth, and then they're about to snap away the Infinity Stones, and then all Nebula didn't have to do was talk, and they never would have known. Like, really,
Mm.
that
It was one of the weaker stories in the movie.
Listen, I still feel I still feel the way I feel about it, but I respect Travis's point because to me, it was. I didn't find it a big leap, but I do understand. I do understand what you're saying. Here's a question that I want to like because we just covered. What's your favorite Marvel movie? What's your least favorite? Start with Travis.
I don't know. I'm gonna be the unpopular kid again. I'm gonna have to go with Black Panther.
Wow.
It felt very
That's
forced.
surprising.
It felt really forced to me. I would have liked to have seen them develop the character of T'Challa before his dad's death a bit more. And I thought the best part of that movie was Killmonger. To me, it's kind of a little sad when the villain is the best part.
Yeah, okay.
Because I didn't really see Killmonger, as I'm watching the movie, I didn't really see Killmonger as the villain.
No, it was much more situational.
Yeah, and they killed off Ulysses Claw.
What's really great, that scene where he's got him at the waterfall that's like straight out of a page of Jungle Action. Our pal Nick Catratis actually owns that splash page. It's just killer piece of art to have. All right, Mikey.
Weirdly, I would probably pick Winter Soldier, even
Oh
though
my
I
God.
like the comic that it was based on. But
Hey,
the very
totally-
first movie I loved. The second one I kind of fell asleep through.
Totally unrelated. We're no longer friends.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
As Travis and JC and Brian were talking about Winter Soldier, I'm like, yeah, I think that might be my favorite one.
But may I say in my defense that I did put on a museum exhibit based around the original story and artwork of the Winter Soldier, and it was one of my, if not the most favorite museum exhibit that I ever did.
Cool.
Looked fantastic.
All right.
So
Brian?
I honor the original part of it. The movie didn't quite get me as much as I'd hoped.
All right, blow me.
So
Brian?
what's your favorite movie?
Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
You mean my least favorite?
Your least favorite, yeah.
Thor Ragnarok. That movie was all over. No, it was all over the place for me.
Oh, I'm going to have to amend mine then.
It was Guardians 3.
Mine.
I think they made Guardians 3. I didn't even know that. That's how it.
No. That's what I'm talking about. Thor Ragnarok was Guardians 3.
Yeah.
And none of the Guardians were in it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I have to amend mine to Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to. I'm definitely gonna have to say Thor: Dark World was by far the worst Marvel movie. And I'll tell you the one thing that really did it for me had to be the elves with the black hole grenades. I mean, all these weapons and all these things. Those weapons were so powerful. Like they could have just flew over and just dropped a bunch of those and killed everything.
Like literally black hole grenades without Don Lemon around to ask about them. I don't.
Oh my God! It was just
wow.
They were so over the top.
I think that movie was really pretty bad. I think that what's her face as Jane Foster just sucked the life out of it too.
It's just so forced.
Yeah,
I mean, and the truth is, to be absolutely fair, when she was in Leon the Professional as a little kid or Beautiful Girls as a young lady, I thought she could act. I thought she was great. And, the Star Wars thing may have killed her. I don't know. But it was pretty bad. My worst is Captain Marvel. It is just so freaking clunky.
That's mine as well.
I haven't seen it. Nile, so you...
That's mine as well. I just couldn't connect to the movie. I'm not going to lie. I fell asleep during it. She just doesn't... She doesn't... No, and it's like... She's kind of like, oh, I have powers. Show me your power. And she'll, move her eye. But it's like, there's no... I don't even think she's that great of an actress. I just didn't buy the character. She wasn't pulling it off.
And I'm from the 70s, a big Ms. Marvel fan.
I blame the writing on that one.
So you're the one?
Mm-hmm.
So you're the one.
For Captain Marvel, totally blame the writing.
Think of Miss Marvel. Captain Marvel.
I like Goose the Cat. Or should I say George the Cat? Goose
Bruce?
the cat was my favorite in this.
Yeah, Bruce was.
Goose-
That's
Cat.
right. I actually
Goose
woke
the
up at
cat.
that part.
And it told me how Nick Fury got that scar. So there we go.
Yeah.
Well, that right there was the dumbest thing I saw in the entire movie, in an entire movie of dumb things.
Yeah.
I think that the whole movie, I thought that Captain Marvel was a decent movie, but then when you watch Endgame, the reason for Captain Marvel didn't seem a good enough reason for them to make a whole movie around her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
you know,
think that it was
the entire thing of in every Marvel movie, I don't care what it is that there's somebody, something happens, and they grow as an individual or as a team, right?
yes.
There's some change. There is no change
Yeah.
in Captain Marvel. She
Right.
goes from pretty powerful at the beginning and can't control her emotions or whatever's holding her back to really powerful and can't control her emotions or whatever's holding her back. And it's just like, what was the point?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Now,
there was
I
$1
will tell
billion
you-
worth of points. $1
Yeah,
billion.
Listen,
Fair.
here's what we can't argue with factually. The movie's very successful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Billion.
I don't think there's anything you can say about that. I'll just say this: I got a genuine lump in my throat when they replaced the standard Marvel logo with all the stand scenes
Absolutely.
at the very opening of that. I literally got a
Yeah.
lump in my throat from that, and the mid and end credits thing were both great.
hmm
And if I had left and come back, I would have been very happy.
Well, you know, it's so also funny. They gave everyone enough, and again, going back to how Soloff and I were talking about this, they gave everyone enough screen time to give their backstory. So if you walked in there, you knew all about Hawkeye. You knew why he became this killer, right? I mean, you knew Captain America, you knew Iron Man, you saw his family, you saw, you knew Rocket Raccoon, you knew, you know what I mean? You knew all the characters, but they didn't give you anything about it, except she just showed up.
Billy, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question about most of the character moments in Endgame. When you're looking at a thing, it's hard to separate yourself as a writer and just get sucked into the thing. When you see something that's such an accomplishment, do you realize like how many of those character moments, like particularly like Peter talking to Tony when he came back, it couldn't have been a page and a half of script. And we're talking about it like this is this big moment, right?
Yeah.
That's economical writing, man. They're very, very cool.
I think a lot of that you have to lean on your actors. I mean, Tom Holland, he's a young guy, but he's a really good actor. Even going back to In the Heart of the Sea, I might have been like one of the 6 people to see it.
Right.
Can I ask a question
No,
of
in the Heart of
everybody?
the Sea.
No.
I thought.
Please?
What about the Impossible?
No.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
What
He was
Can
in
I
the
ask a
Impossible.
question for everybody? What were there any questions that weren't answered in these movies that you wish were?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I would have loved to have seen that they had the perfect opportunity to do and they didn't was kind of an homage back to the Infinity Gauntlet comic book. There for a moment Nebula put the gauntlet on. Well, during the whole time that during her whole like character run during Endgame, she was always saying, I didn't always used to look like this. I didn't always used to be like this. And I thought that it would have been a great payoff if just for a moment she did put on the gauntlet and, was able to revert back to like Karen Gillan, just for a moment. I thought the hot potato gauntlet storyline was just, I thought that part was kind of weird, but that was the one person that I wish I would have seen something happen with, and I didn't get a chance to see it. Granted, it didn't ruin the movie for me, but that was just something that I would have loved to have seen.
I think I would have liked to have seen how the Avengers explain the snap. Like, because at the end in the post-credit scene, at the end of the Endgame or Infinity War, and then the post-credit scene, all this chaos is going on because people are just disappearing all over the place, and then they jump to 23 days later, but like no, you don't see mass riots, you don't see people freaking out. Jump to 5 years later, and everybody's just like, oh, I guess I got over it, and I went on a date, and blah blah blah. But like, where's that like? Who explains that? How do you get that?
That's a really good point. One of the things that when you get into stuff like that, it's how do you explain that without going all the way into it? Because let's face it, the aftermath of that could have been its own movie.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I mean, and that would be, I mean, literally that there had to be some temptation to go there.
Like Daredevil or something. You know what I mean? Like his world.
Yeah, I mean,
people in New York City disappeared. The other half, you know what I mean, are fighting to survive. Think about that. Look at that.
I mean, think of all the services that just break down immediately. The, planes crashing, trucks on the highway, crashing, doctors all of a sudden disappearing.
We saw, like in Infinity War, at the tail end, we saw a helicopter crash into a building.
Yeah.
We saw other stuff like that. But let's reduce it to a basic level. Nobody picks up your garbage. Your gas and other utilities stop working.
But wait a second.
Nobody
can I take an opposite point of view here? Because I was thinking during the early scenes, okay, half the people disappear, but you take a bus or you go to a movie or you go to a baseball game, and instead of having a full stadium, you have half a stadium. You still have a lot of people left.
No, the economics of it all break down.
Yeah,
there's a huge article someone wrote about this. On how that happened. Plus, also that so many people did die that won't be able to come back because the people that were still alive on that plane where the pilot disappeared, or the vehicle crashed, or this happened.
Oh, okay.
All the actors.
Yeah.
Like Vision didn't die in the snapping, so he can't come back.
Correct.
But Scarlet Witch could.
Right.
So
I mean, my God, Vision spent that whole last movie dying. Oh my
God!
How
do you have that press conference?
Oh yeah.
Well, who watches it? Who watches the press conference? Who
watches The Watchmen?
Yeah, who airs it?
That's coming up on HBO. So.
Yeah.
Well, Catwoman survived, right? So.
What was your favorite scene from Endgame? Like your favorite?
Mine definitely was that battle scene at the end.
Seeing Stan Lee in the car in the 70s. That was my favorite because I was glad that whatever they did, whether it was him, you were able to see Stan Lee for the. I'm gonna get a little teary, but you were able to see Stan Lee finish it out.
Yeah, and he was Stan Lee though, circa 1990.
Yeah, same outfit.
Yeah. He digitized his face a little and stuff because he looked fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, he looked mint straight from the time.
Look, I'm getting a little teary eyed on that right now. Oh.
And if I may. Not my favorite scene, but something that when Cap was in the support group room and they switched to Jim Starlin, and I don't know if you guys know him, he's one of the sweetest guys you'll ever meet in your life. And he's so deserving of the accolades that hopefully he's getting now. And I see it popping up here and there. But I'm like, oh my God! And I just started
especially since he can't draw anymore.
I was talking about it. I turned to Matthew, I'm like, that's Jim Starlin. He's like, I know, Dad. Because, of course, he's a snob or a comic snob.
Billy, one of the things that I think is so great about him being in there and getting the recognition is that he can't draw anymore. I mean, it doesn't mean he can't write, and he's a great writer.
Yeah.
I think it's really great. And one of the Russo brothers was in that scene too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been in every movie they've made.
Oh, was he?
Marvel movie. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
That definitely surprised me and made me happy when I saw him. Jim Starlin.
You have to admit, Captain America seeing Hail Hydra was pretty funny.
Yes.
You like that? And that guy's little smiley, smirky face?
Yeah, Jasper Silva.
Yeah, Jasper.
I just loved Cap being worthy of the hammer when it finally gets to him. It's like, oh my God.
I was.
He knew that the entire time.
Yeah, see, for me, I talked about before about how it was always Cap and the Falcon when I started reading. And to go a little bit more into detail, I was raised in a very patriotic household during Vietnam. And Cap was my outlet, man. Cap was an outlet of my patriotism. And I freaking love Captain America. Even the worst of the movies is fine by me if it's got Captain America in it, But bit where he grabs the hammer
Oh yeah.
is, I mean, if you believe what I believe about Captain America, and the earlier tip off was when Thor got the hammer, when he's standing there with Rene Russo, another great cameo.
Yeah.
When he's standing there and the hammer comes to him, he says, "I'm still worthy."
Yeah.
It reminds you of Stan's inscription on the hammer, "Whosoever is worthy."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
You
think
know?
that was definitely my favorite part.
Yeah.
My favorite part was when he got the hammer, because he went through all this stuff and was so down on himself and blamed himself for everything bad that had happened. And it's like he put his hand up there not knowing if it was going to be there, and when it came to him, it was like his redemption.
Yeah.
Like he's like I am still worthy.
Yeah.
But honorable mention, Thanos pulling off the power jib and punching Captain Marvel. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Like taking the power gem off and just.
Hey, Niall, I got a question for you, Niall.
Yeah.
Out of the other Marvel Universe characters, and there's all sorts of theories floating around about the next films, but out of whether they've been announced or not, who do you want to see in a movie?
I want to see Moon Knight. If we're just talking general characters, I want to see Moon Knight in a movie.
Which Moon Knight?
Which Moon Knight?
The original.
Yeah, I would probably have to say the original.
You're talking about Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night, Moon Knight.
The new crazy.
Werewolf
crazy
by Night, Moon Knight.
I don't want to see the Warren Ellis Moon Knight.
Travis, what character do you want to see in a movie?
I would really like to see Kang the Conqueror.
Nice.
They've opened up the
time
travel stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to see, some Kang the Conqueror.
I think that would be great. I think they need to do something in between now and then to not be time travel stories all the time. But I freaking love that.
That, or now that they have the ability, I'd love to see Galactus done correctly instead of Angry Space Cloud.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Who's winning a fight, Galactus or Thanos?
Thanos
Galactus.
with the Infinity Gauntlet or without?
Yeah.
Galactus.
Without Galactus.
Yeah,
It all
without.
depends on who has the ultimate nullifier.
Jim Starlin actually told us it's Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. In the Infinity Gauntlet series, he kicked the crap out of all the celestial beings. So.
Oh, okay.
Crystal, what character you do want to see?
Well, I would like to see Black Widow, her whole entire story, but they're already telling me that they're going to possibly do one. So I would say Black Widow.
Okay.
Speaking of Black Widow, I'll let you finish, but I want to get into something with Black Widow.
They've already touched on it. I'd love to see a Howard the Duck.
Oh.
I would.
I don't know what's wrong with you. Why can you mess with perfection?
Well, I mean, look, like I liked the original Howard the Duck movie. I mean, I thought it was pretty good.
Dude, I bought the soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah, but definitely, I'm not too keen on Seth Green doing the voice, but I mean, I definitely would love to see a Howard the Duck for sure.
Okay, Mikey.
I really don't have a good answer for this one. But if I had to pick one, there was a little book that Marvel did called Blade Runner that I think would be an excellent. Just throw that out there.
Can I throw something through my camera at you?
If you can, I'll give you $1. Billy?
But I'm just more worried, truthfully, like what half of the DC universe disappeared? That's my main concern.
All right. Just go away.
Yeah, can't do that.
Billy, what Marvel character do you want to see?
Fool Killer.
Wow.
Nice. That would be interesting.
I think
that's digging down deep into the bottom of the barrel.
But Fool Killer might be a better television series, like a DC I'm just fascinated by that character. I really am. And if we don't want to go that way, then by George, let's go Speedball.
Speedball.
No. I got to tell you that's Speedball's a pretty funny answer, but you know what? You go back to anything that has Steve Ditko at its roots, and it's worth looking at, man. Yeah. It is absolutely worth considering. I think that there's a lot of great Marvel characters, and sooner or later, I think they'll get around to many of them, whether it's on TV or streaming service or film. But I think the one, other than the obvious thing of saying the Fantastic Four done right, and if they could get Chris Evans back for one more with Hugh Jackman, and I think that could be one really great movie. But the thing that I think that the thinking of the zeitgeist at the moment, where popular culture is at the moment, I think it's She-Hulk.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
Disney's supposedly one of the streaming series is going to be She-Hulk.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't believe anything till it's like official. But yeah, Nile, I've heard the same stuff.
Yeah.
I need a logo for me to believe in it.
I want to say in chat, Black Wolf said Deathlock. I definitely would love to see Deathlock as well. I think
I
that'd be
saw
awesome.
that.
I love the original Deathlock, and I think that there's a lot in that. I did not mind the iteration they did on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I didn't love it either.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Brian, that's a really good choice.
Well, that was Black Wolf, yeah.
Yeah.
Black Wolf Senpai, definitely.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's good.
So I got a question. Sorry, I just want to touch base with you guys, and that's actually going back to Avengers Endgame. The scene when they're getting the Soul Stone, and they're kind of battling back and forth of who's actually going to sacrifice themselves. I don't know. I found that scene that scene bothered me because obviously Thanos, did what he did because he loved her. But between the two, I mean, I couldn't really grasp what she was truly sacrificing. I don't know if any of you guys can help me understand that.
Well, you had to sacrifice what you loved, and basically they loved each other. So whoever died, the other person would get the soul gem.
Yeah,
it's like siblings fighting over the last piece of pie.
Yeah, but it was Soloff and I it was a real beautiful relationship between the two of them. Like they really respected each other as friends.
And Billy, to your point, that Natasha viewed Clint as the source of her redemption, because he had the opportunity and the assignment to kill her. Instead, he recruited her.
Right.
And, I mean, in that scenario, I'd be more than willing to sacrifice Soloff to get the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But that means you love him. That means you love him.
So where are you?
Yeah, like that brother that you don't want coming around the house.
That's adorable. It's adorable.
Since we're going to talk about the Soul Stone, Nile, you've opened this up.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think it represents about the change in the character of the villainous of villains, the Red Skull?
I'm
sorry.
Oh my God.
Okay, sorry.
How the hell did you? I just saw that looks like my parlor. Are you?
He snapped his fingers, Billy.
Here's Nightcrawler here. Is he Soloff Nightcrawler? Oh, that's actually we can't talk about that. Okay.
Oh my God,
What the hell?
amazing.
No, I'm not. I'm not in your house.
And now you're off target.
You're not in my house?
No, I'm not.
Where are you go?
He's gone on the thrill cam. It makes me nauseous to look at.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, what was your question? So what do you think? What
does it say about the present nature of the Red Skull that he's sort of wise and knowing, and not the Red Skull? I mean, clearly he's the same guy, but clearly he's not the same guy that we saw in Captain America: First Avenger.
Yeah.
I think there's bizarrely a little bit of redemption that's gone on there, which is just the weirdest thing I've ever said about the Red Skull.
I honestly haven't put too much thought into that.
How did he end up there? If you guys don't mind me.
Oh, that goes back to the cosmic cube from the first movie, where he's zapped into space when he's trying to hold it, and then the thing falls through the deck of the plane and goes into the ice. And I think that is going back to, what was that, the third movie? It was Iron Man, Hulk, and then Cap, right?
Fourth, fifth.
Oh, fourth.
Fourth or fifth, yeah.
Fourth, yeah.
The fifth.
So you go back through that. and realize they're pulling an element from like really early in the Marvel universe to come up with that. Mm-hmm. So I think that was really good remembering.
Yeah. I think that's a little too much thought being put into it.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he had to
take... He's Basil Exposition.
Right. Oh, yes.
Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Basil. I didn't understand why they needed to take the Soul Stone back. I mean, like that was just one of the other things that really bothered me. So like Captain America took the Soul Stone back, and like I mean, did he peek over the edge and see Black Widow's body down there at the bottom?
No, the trolls come by and clean it up.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I didn't understand that.
What about with Cap? If he went back and then lived his entire life now in the past, isn't that going to screw up all the things that happened?
Alternate timeline.
There we go. So that's what I wanted to loop back to earlier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Like we planned it.
like the hippies would have took over the world.
No.
Or did
Cap was there the whole time.
Yeah. He kept him in line.
Oh, but he was just married.
Cap was there the whole time in a different timeline.
Cap was there.
It was a whole different
timeline. There's only one time.
Oh no, man! They used Dragon Ball Z timeline rules. They did. So, like it was a totally different timeline altogether.
So Cap never meets himself, right?
That is correct. He never met.
In The Winter Soldier, Peggy talks about how she met her husband, and her life was forever changed once again by Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Wait, right? What? I don't remember that.
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
In the museum.
Peggy get married, whether you watched Agent Carter or any other stuff.
I love that show.
Her life progresses from the point where Steve disappears. This represents a fundamental change. We know from Civil War that she was married and had a good life. She led a big role in S.H.I.E.L.D., all that kind of stuff.
What? There's something missing there, Jeff. Is in Civil War. There's pictures, or no, the one Winter Soldier. Cap visits Peggy. There's pictures of her family and her kids.
Yeah,
not of her husband.
Really?
Yeah. You know what? I gotta say, I think that's not a story element. I think that's a budget element. But I agree that's a concern.
I Photoshop pictures for like, $60,000 a year, so it's not a budget issue. It's not a budget issue to Photoshop some dude into a picture with.
Well, if it's an actor, you got to pay him.
Not if it's a stock. It's not. If they don't show him. You just take a stock image, pop it in there.
They made it clear though that it was an alternate timeline. When they went back, they plucked it from an alternate timeline. That's why they had to go back and put it exactly back at the right moment.
So that's why, wouldn't be an alternate timeline.
So where's Thor's hammer?
He lived his.
Okay.
Captain America took it back.
If we're going to talk about timelines, here's my question: when Thor is talking to Rene Russo, and he gets the hammer, that scene that I love so much,
right?
What happens to that Thor's hammer?
Captain America took it back. Captain America
took it back.
Yeah, he 100% took it back and put it back exactly the same place that he put the ether, which I don't know if he injected Homegirl back with the ether again or not, but yeah, he took it back to the exact same place. Remember when he's standing on there, he picks up the hammer and they both go.
Yeah,
his final mission was to put all the stones back so that Thanos could get them, so there could be a snapping, so that everything else could happen, and then once the timeline picks up after Thanos' fight, or before Thanos' fight, so when the movie happens again, or the story happens again, or as the story goes on, the Infinity Stones are destroyed.
Battlestar Galactica. All this has happened before. It will happen again.
well, again, like so. Say he took the Tesseract back last.
Look at this.
Because that's where Peggy was. So he lived his whole life in the Tesseract timeline, and then he used the time travel device to come back to the now timeline, the 5 years later timeline. That's why he was old when he showed up. It wasn't like while they were sitting over there, he snuck up and sat on the bench.
He took the Tesseract back, and he got more Pym particles, so he could go back to 1948 or 49.
48, 49, whatever it took.
Well, he had all the PIM particles he needed, though.
Right. For a one-way trip to where he needed to go, but he needed more PIM particles to go back to live his life with Peggy.
So in the time that he went back to, the Tesseract time, there was all the PIM particles he needed.
Yeah.
Remember, that's why they got
where they stole the PIM particles the first time.
Right. So he had access to all the PIM particles he needed if he wanted to. Like, he could have taken more if he needed to.
Crystal, are you bored by PIM particles, or are you just sleepy?
No, I'm just listening to you guys just chit chat. Billy snapped his fingers. He disappeared. I don't know where he went. No,
Well, if he could snap his fingers and have half of me disappear, that'd be nice.
Solof's gone too.
Really?
Really?
He's gonna go. He's gonna do his teleportation thing and be.
Yeah, so he's gonna go in Billy. He's going to Billy's chair right now. There you go.
Oh,
yeah. Up.
Oh, he had to refuel.
I got a stranger.
Oh my God! Watch out behind you!
And there he comes. There he is.
Billy.
Here goes
He's
all
like,
part.
shit,
No,
I was going to take your
listening
chair.
to you guys are saying the whole.
All
Yeah,
right.
time
Well,
travel's confusing.
we've been on for long enough, I think.
All right, well, let's go over one thing. So we've never talked about. What did you guys think of Thanos? I mean, I liked Thanos. I liked the character. I actually felt for him at points, and I think one of the best villains that has hit the screen. I think, at least for capturing
the protagonist of Infinity War.
Yeah.
Right under there. See, all that stuff is on. Bring that.
Well, when Thanos went in, he was at the when you first saw him, and he was out there, and he looked all burned up and everything, and he was picking vegetables or whatever he was picking, and he was tired, and he was done. He was like, I'm finished. I mean, you felt bad for him. I did.
I will say this. I think that he was an excellent villain, given that they were going to do in Infinity War. I think that you could have all sorts of sub villains as they did, and that's great. But I don't know what else you would have done. Now, Billy, I did want to say the signal's coming from inside the house. Get out.
Well, now, that's the deluxe furniture that I get.
Oh my God. No, but look, Solof's camera, it's still there. You know what I love though but then he really did, because you got to think, if he is this being with this mission in life and what he feels he has to do to balance the whole world, blah blah blah, with his daughters and the whole thing. But they tied it together real nicely and very comic booky with like, but I'm going to enjoy. None of this has ever been personal to me, but I'm going to enjoy destroying your world, and that made him a villain. And
they annoyed him.
Silva comic book, you know what I mean?
I thought he was a great protagonist in Infinity War. He drove the story. He was very relatable, and he was a great antagonist in Endgame.
He was extremely well written.
Yeah,
extremely well written.
And Josh Brolin did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think that's really true.
Yeah, they're multiplying over there.
All right.
My other son's here now. That's William.
Now, what do you guys think with Sam Wilson now getting the? He's got the shield. Do you think so? Are we? Is this? What's the next step? Where are we going from here? Where are we going with
the series? The series that we know that is coming is Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A television series?
Yeah.
But is he gonna be Captain? Will he be Captain America in that?
I don't know.
Or is he still just going to be Falcon?
I don't know either. Like the whole reason he got the shield and everything in the comics in the regular storyline was they injected him with the super serum.
Right.
So I don't know how that's going to work now. Like, I mean, he's Falcon. He's like, man, I got the wings and stuff. Like, I'm good. I don't need a shield too.
Yeah, the shield will hinder him because he doesn't have the power to fight. And
Yeah, I mean, I thought the shield took a certain amount of strength to throw properly.
To use as anything other than a shield.
Yeah.
And if it's just a shield, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of like when you go over to your grandparents' house and there's like, here's a Werther's original, and you're like, well, like I really don't want one, but I guess I'll take it. Thanks.
Well, thanks, man.
Don't knock Werther's. I love those things. They're so creamy.
Or those weird ones that are
Yeah, I really
wrapped
don't
like
want. I
strawberries.
really don't
Oh,
want.
those are gross. Oh.
It's like when you go over your aunt's house and she offers you sweaty balls for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Grandpa, I really don't want another oatmeal cream pie, please. I had
All
enough
right.
already today.
I think we've got a new Mike Soloff there. That's great.
Nice.
Well, guys, I gotta tell
Hey,
you.
Mike Soloff.
Well, Nile, we're almost at an hour and a half.
All right.
It's only 35 minutes too long.
Yeah, only. Yeah, this has been wonderful, guys. You guys are awesome. We'd love to have this fan roundtable discussion again. As my William is downstairs on Soloff's. He left. He's at the piano. But please, Nile, if you may, take us out. I mean, this has been amazing.
Yeah.
I truly enjoyed the film. I love the film, actually. Again, let's see how I feel a year from now. But this film made me a Marvel fan again. I got to tell you, it really did. It brought me back to that day. I just saw, there was a thing when I made a short film back in the day, and I don't know, 15 years ago or so, and I had storyboards of what I wanted to do for the film that JC was in, and I remember my director of photography saying, when you write a comic book and you draw a comic book, you can put that on the page. You can't do that in film. And I'm saying, why not? With him.
I think Billy, I think you just.
Yeah, but this film proved that you can.
Yeah, I think you just really hit on something, and I think for context, we should really think about this for just a moment. Which is, do you remember? Because it's hard to remember what it was like before the success.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody in our industry was holding their breath for Raimi's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I mean, the DC people wanted it to succeed. The Dark Horse people wanted it to succeed. All those people. Yeah, we'd had the X-Men, but Spider-Man's the core of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The deal that the fact that the X-Men were such a success enabled Marvel to make a better deal for Spider-Man. So they go in and they own 50% of that with Sony. And the success of that enables them to get the $625 million line of credit that becomes Marvel Studios, that becomes Iron Man and the Hulk and Thor and all of these things. And don't forget that we get until, we have the Nick Fury add-on for the Avengers initiative at the end of Iron Man. Mm-hmm. But we've got Tony Stark walking into the bar with Thunderbolt Ross at the end of Hulk. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's a universe.
Yeah.
And we are now 11 years removed from that. And nobody knew for a fact that this could be done. And now superheroes, listen, we'll have peaks and valleys in the superheroes. You've heard all of us just talking about, criticizing some of them and all that kind of stuff. But in all seriousness, it's like vampires or gangsters or any other genre. Superhero isn't going away. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing era to live in. People talk about superhero fatigue and stuff like that. Nobody's tired of great movies ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
People are tired of it's starting to wane with superheroes. You see it a little bit.
No, I absolutely disagree. People are tired of bad superhero movies.
Just like they're tired of bad love stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Bad comedies.
Where's Meg Ryan now? She got snapped away.
That's exactly right. Meg Ryan's dead.
She was
in the plane that got snapped.
Guys, there's an interesting trailer out right now for a new genre that I hadn't really seen before, which was horror superhero.
Yeah,
Brightburn.
It's called Jumping the Shark superhero.
And even though it's a total rip-off of Superman, it looks really kind of interesting if they do the horror aspect of it well.
Well, New Mutants is supposed to be. Isn't that supposed to be more of a horror movie?
Yes.
I think X-Men Dark Phoenix is supposed to be a horror, but just the X-Men fans.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, it's an exciting time. And if I may, because like I said, we're going over, but if I may, starting with Kissel, we'll go to JC, we'll go to Nile the Brain, we'll go to Brian, we'll go to Empty.
Yeah, I'll go downstairs again.
Which will be Saul, and of course to Travis. What is your favorite superhero film of all time? Kissel.
What?
What's your favorite superhero movie of all time? Are you now, or you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
When did you stop beating your wife?
Okay, I'm just going to switch teams real quick, though, because I think for myself, I mean, I'm going to switch companies, but, I mean, Wonder Woman was a big impact with me. I mean, Wonder Woman just, I can't get over Wonder Woman, and, I mean, that's DC, obviously, but, I mean, it changed things for me. But, you know, you want to go back, Marvel started it back for me with Iron Man, so... But I loved Wonder Woman. I mean, Gal Gadot. Wow.
Yeah. Old Bean.
So
I'll stick with Winter Soldier. My number 2 is Dark Knight, and number 3 is Mystery Men.
Oh,
Mystery Men. Nice.
Mystery Men was 20. Think about this, man. 20 freaking years early. It's the perfect superhero parody.
Brain?
Gosh, I've never watched that.
I don't really know if he's a superhero, but the Crow.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
that was the Crow, and then Batman '89.
No, I apologize. No, it's '94.
Yeah.
Book film. Batman '89 is horrible. It does not hold up. I think it's horrible.
It holds up here for me.
Michael Keaton is still the best Batman.
He's the best Batman.
I think he is, which is sad, in my humble opinion. But anyway, Brian, what do you think?
Well, I'm definitely going to go completely off script because I do like all the Marvel movies, but outside of the Marvel movies, which this was a DC property. I mean, I'd have to have a tie between the Rocketeer and Flash Gordon, like the 1980 Flash Gordon, Sam Jones. I mean, like it is my number one. I mean, it's my number one favorite movie. If you go look at my my top 20 on my Facebook, it is by far my number one. And of course, the Shadow, the Phantom, Rocketeer. I mean, all those are just
Wow.
Ornella Muti was
flying blind on a rocket cycle.
No. Mr. Miller.
I have to go with Logan.
Oh, nice.
I thought that was a great swan song.
Interesting.
And it really should have been nominated for Best Picture in 2016 because it was by far one of the best
pretty
movies.
strong movie.
Man, the trailer for that was incredible with the Johnny Cash song. I mean, it was just. I mean, they did such a good job, marketing that.
They did a better job making that movie than I'd say 90% of just all genre movies.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Solo?
I would have to pick Heath Ledger's Joker and the Batman as my favorite movie because
also known as The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight. It just having that as a character, as an actor, it just made the biggest impact on me of any villain that I've ever seen. It just personified wonderful crazy for me more than anyone else ever has.
All right. If I may, I have to go with, I guess maybe because I'm still riding on a high from how difficult of a film I walked into the theater thinking this was going to be and not being convinced that they would be able to pull it off. But I really loved Endgame. I really did. I loved it. I think I enjoyed it. Well, like I said, maybe it's because I was with my kids, the whole thing, and seeing my reactions and stuff like that, and my son punching at the screen, who's 13 years old, you know what I mean? And just watching him do that. But I'm with you, Brian, with the Rocketeer. Still Old Bean. Jeff, it still has such a place in my heart. I don't know. It just still does to this day.
Hey, Billy, do you mind if I ask you a question? Like, did you like Endgame as a standalone movie, or did you like it as a sequel to Infinity War?
No, I like it as a standalone film because I just saw Infinity War last night for the first time.
Oh, so you saw Endgame before you saw Infinity War?
No. I saw Infinity War the other day. I saw Infinity War, and then the next day I saw Endgame.
So is it a standalone, or do you see it as a 5-hour movie?
No, I think it's standalone.
I think it's supposed to be judged as a 5-hour.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, Travis is right because originally it was titled Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2.
Right.
They wisely changed the title, but they didn't change the content.
Again,
I see it as a 5.5 hour movie.
Again, I think they gave everyone.
Because Doctor Strange said Endgame.
I think Strange was lacking in this film. Mm-hmm. For sure, for obvious reasons he was, because he wasn't there. But and I love him. I think Cumberbatch.
I just have to say I've got like 2 hours worth of work. So if we're gonna wrap it up, let's. I
have to be.
Next time, I don't know what happened. Apparently, it was my idea for us to go on at 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And I apologize for that. And I know we're super late. But we went on. Thank you guys so much, our guests. I mean, JC's a regular.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Brain, if you right, and we have Miss Ann Kissel and Brian Blevins, and of course Travis Miller and the Ghost in the center, Elijah and so off. But if you guys wouldn't mind coming on, maybe when we have these really cool comic book events or things happen, we can have you guys as our roundtable discussion. As a
Game of Thrones rap.
There you go.
Yeah.
I won't be on for that because I haven't seen it yet, and I want to.
God, dude, I'm all about it.
Yeah, I have all the DVD. I had the first 7 seasons on DVD, and
Billy? Could you watch them by next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. So.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, and it all started with I missed the first 3 episodes or the first 2 episodes. I'm like, I'll catch up at the end of the season. And that's what happened.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys. It's been great.
Anytime. Thanks for coming on, guys.
You guys are awesome.
Me, the only girl. I appreciate it.
It's quality, not quantity, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Quality, not
I
quantity.
look forward to seeing you, hopefully in San Diego. Travis, Phoenix, from what I understand.
Yeah.
See you then.
I will not be at San Diego. I have to work.
Okay, well, I will buy you a beer or drink in Phoenix.
Wow, well, we got to meet some more girls.
Yes.
Yes, that's our mission this year.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining this, our first roundtable discussion.
Or something. Thank you all out there. Please give us a like for your fellow fans and
subscribe.
Tally-ho.
Tally-ho, everyone. Have a great evening.
Good night.
All right.